Looks like we're at the time to start, so we'll convene the meeting. If folks want to look at the minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Our unfinished business is a code review of the IFC chapters 4 through 8.
4 through 80.
4 through 80, that's correct. Forgot my Y.
Yeah, well, the fire department's here, as you can see, enforced to
Yeah.
take care of that one, so we'll just let them take it away.
All right, thanks, Sean.
Morning. Thank you for your time. I'll start with chapters 4 through 7, the review for the 2024 IFC. Just to let you know, I'm Kent Cromie, Deputy Fire Marshal. First one, section 403, number 403, 10.6 on page 102. This is new language, subsection language added for lithium ion and lithium metal batteries. For basically to approve the fire safety and evacuation plan is needed for occupancies that involve these type of materials. Section 403.10.6.1, page 102, is the mitigation planning. This is an approved fire safety and evacuation plan in case there's a thermal runaway event. Section 407, 407.1, page 106, new language for clarification. Under general, permit required for operating or closing a hazardous materials storage, use, or handling facility. Moving to chapter 5, fire service features, section 503.4, page 108. This was amended to read as follows, 503.4, obstruction of fire apparatus access roads. Fire apparatus access roads shall not be obstructed in any manner, including the parking of vehicles, the minimum widths and clearances established in section 503.2.1 and 503.2.2 shall be maintained at all times. Enforcement of such prohibited parking may be accomplished in the same manner as regulations contained in Article 8 through 10 and in section 9-0705 of the Fargo Municipal Code. The municipal code contains these ordinances to deal with the parking. Moving to section 507, 507.5.4 on page 110. Obstruction was amended to read as followed. Unobstructed access to fire hydrants shall be maintained at all times. The fire department shall not be deterred or hindered from gaining immediate access to fire protection equipment or fire hydrants. An approved hydrant marker shall be installed immediately adjacent to the rear of the hydrant. That's a new amendment to codify the city's requirement to have hydrant markers.
I'm assuming all your hydrant wrenches are ratcheting nowadays.
Yes, they are.
Okay.
Let me see. Moving to section 510. 510.1 on page 112. This was new language added for clarification on emergency responder communication enhancement systems, or ERCESs. When and where required, the ERCESs shall be of a type determined by the fire code official and frequency license holders. An exception was added, number 4, one-story buildings not exceeding 12,000 square feet with no below-ground area. Section 510.3, page 112, new language, subsection language. On the permits, emergency responder communication enhancement systems now require a permit. Section 510.3.2, page 112, operational permit. This is a type, clarifying the type of permit that's needed. Section 510.4.1.1, page 112, new language added for clarification. Measuring the downlink using either narrowband analog, digital, or wideband LTE signals or the equivalent. Section 510.4.1.2, page 112, new language for clarification. Measuring the uplink using either narrowband analog, digital, or wideband LTE signals or the equivalent. 510.4.2, new language for clarification of the NFPA reference change. The reference change is from NFPA 1221 2019 edition to the NFPA 1225 2022 edition. Section 510.4.2.4, page 113, new language for clarification. Requiring number 5 indicates that the system shall be permitted to shut down in the event of uncorrectable oscillation with a supervisory signal being transmitted. Section 510.4.2.5, page 113, new language for clarification. Monitoring needed for the low battery capacity at 70% of the 12-hour operating capacity has been depleted. Section 510.4.2.5.1, page 113, new subsection language. A supervisory signal shall be permitted where approved. Section 510.4.2.8, page 113, new language for clarification. Where a signal booster is required by the RF system designer, the dynamic range of the in-building emergency responder communications enhancement system shall be designed to minimize the effect of strong signal automatic gain control on weak signal uplink performance. Section 510.4.2.9, page 113, new subsection language. Where the signal booster is used, signal booster types and uplink signals and noise levels shall be coordinated with the approved by all frequency license holders that may be adversely impacted by any transmitted noise resulting from the in-building emergency responder communication enhancement systems. Systems shall be in compliance with all frequency licensing authorities. Section 510.5, page 113. Language added for clarification of the NFPA reference change. NFPA reference changed from NFPA 1221 2019 edition to NFPA 1225 2022 edition. Section 510.5.2.1, page 114, new subsection language. Active RF emitting devices meeting the following requirements in addition to any other requirements determined by the fire code official or the frequency licensing holder. Active RF emitting devices that have a transmitted power output sufficient to require certification of the frequency license shall have certification of the radio frequency licensing authority prior to installation. Number 2 is all active RF emitting devices shall be simultaneously compatible for their intended use as required through the licensing authorities and fire code officials. Number 3 is the written authorization shall be obtained from the frequency holders prior to the initial activation of any RF emitting devices. Chapter 6, Building Services and Systems. Beginning with section 603, 603.4.2, page 117. New subsection language added. The disconnecting means for each service, feeder, or branch circuit originating on a switchboard or panel board shall be legibly and durably marked to indicate its purpose unless such purpose is clearly evident. Section 603.4.3, page 117. New subsection language. Where buildings or structures are supplied by more than one power source, marking shall be provided at each service equipment location and at the interconnected electric power production sources, identifying all electric power sources at the premises, according with NFPA 70. Moving to section 604, 604.4, page 118. New language for clarification with the exception removed. The summary is approved language for signage when elevators are out of service. Moving to section 608, 608.17, page 125. The exception was removed. Exception 2 was removed and the language was incorporated into section 608.18 to reference the International Mechanical Code. 608.18, page 125. The language was refined for groups A2L and B2L refrigerants, referencing the International Mechanical Code, sections 1106.4.1 through 1106.4.3. Section 608.18 or 608.18.1, page 125. New language was added for elevated temperatures, open flame producing devices, or continuously operating hot surfaces over 1290 degrees shall not be permanently installed in the room. Section 608.18.2, page 125. Language was refined for clarification. Refrigerant detectors, referencing the International Mechanical Code, section 1105.3 and table 608.18.2. Section table 608.18.2, page 125 is the table that was referenced. Section 608.18.3, page 125. Language was refined to reference standard of the mechanical ventilation, referencing ASHRAE 15. Moving to Chapter 7, Fire and Smoke Protection Features. Section 701, 701.6.1, page 126. New language was added for record keeping, referencing Section 110.3 on the requirements for the record keeping. Section 705, 705.2.7, page 128. New language was added for the periodic inspection of testing of rolling steel fire doors, inspection and testing of as referenced in NFPA 80. This ends chapters 4 through 7. Any questions?
I'm assuming on all the communications thing, is that something that you guys test yearly as you do your inspections, that your radio systems and whatever are able to get through that building?
So we don't test them yearly. The building owners are required to go through third-party testing annually.
Okay,
We review that. We can always spot check our radio operations anytime we're in a building,
okay,
but they are required through code to do annual testing and maintain those records.
okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Board. I'm Dawn Stollenwerk, Assistant Fire Marshal. I'll be presenting chapters 8 through 10, most of which you may have heard in the building code. If you have any questions, stop me, but otherwise I'll keep moving. Chapter 8, Interior Finished Decorative Materials and Furnishings, Section 806.1.1 on page 135. This is an amendment and it shall read as follows. 806.1.1, Restricted occupancies. Natural cut trees shall be prohibited within ambulatory care facilities, Group A, E, I1, I2, I3, I4, R1, R2, and R4 occupancies. The exception in our amendment is the number 3. For purposes of this provision, churches shall not be deemed public buildings and may utilize natural or resin-bearing cut trees in the altar area of the church. No electric lighting is allowed on the tree. This is a long-standing amendment that allows churches to have trees as decoration, and the natural cut trees are required to comply with Section 806. Chapter 9 is Fire Protection and Life Safety Systems. A lot of this is pertaining to some changes that were made in regards to lithium-ion batteries. Section 903.2.2.2 on page 143. This is a new subsection added for Group B automatic sprinkler system requirements. 903.2.2.2, laboratories involving research and development or testing. An automatic sprinkler system shall be installed throughout fire areas utilized for the research and development or testing of lithium-ion or lithium metal batteries. Section 903.2.4 on page 143. This is a new automatic sprinkler system requirement added for F1 occupancies, very similar to what I just said for the laboratories. F1 occupancies used to manufacture lithium-ion or lithium metal batteries and used to manufacture vehicles, energy storage systems, or equipment containing lithium-ion or lithium metal batteries will be required to be provided with automatic sprinkler systems. 903.2.7.3 on page 144, new subsection Group M, automatic sprinkler requirements, again regarding the lithium-ion, lithium metal battery storage. Automatic sprinkler system shall be provided in a room or space with a Group M occupancy where required for the storage of lithium-ion or lithium metal batteries by Section 320 of Chapter 32. Section 903.2.9, subsection 5, page 145, new automatic sprinkler requirements for Group S1 occupancies. An automatic sprinkler system shall be provided throughout all buildings containing a Group S1 occupancy where one of the following conditions exist. The change was to subsection 5, Group S1 fire area used for the storage of lithium-ion or lithium metal powered vehicles where the fire area exceeds 500 square feet is now required to have a sprinkler system. 903.2.9.1, subsection 5, page 145, new automatic sprinkler requirements for Group S1 repair garages and occupancies. An automatic sprinkler system shall be provided throughout all buildings used as repair garages in accordance with Section 406.8 of the International Building Code as shown. The change for 5, a Group S1 fire area used for the storage of lithium-ion or lithium metal-powered vehicles where the fire area exceeds 500 square feet shall be required to have a sprinkler system. 903.3.1, page 148, is a local amendment and shall read as follows. 903.3.1 standards. Automatic sprinkler system shall be designed with a 5 psi safety margin and installed in accordance with 903.3.1.1, 903.3.1.2, or 903.3.1.3, or other chapters of this code as applicable. This amendment is requested due to the fluctuation of pressures at various times of the day and throughout the year. Section 903.3.1.1.1, page 148, is amended to read as follows. 903.1.1.1.1, exempt locations. Automatic sprinklers shall not be required in the following rooms or areas where such rooms or areas are protected with automatic fire detection systems in accordance with Section 907.2. that will respond to visible or invisible particles of combustion. Sprinklers shall not be omitted from a room merely because it is damp. A fire resistance rated construction or contains electrical equipment. Our amendment 6 is elevator machine rooms and machinery spaces where sprinklers are not installed in elevator machine rooms. Shunt trip required in accordance with IBC 3005.5 shall not be installed. This proposed amendment would allow elevator machine rooms to not be sprinklered and therefore remove the amendment for elevator shunt trips. This will match the construction practice currently occurring in the state of Minnesota, and it was also adopted in the 2021 IFC. Section 903.3.1.1.3, page 148. This is again a change regarding lithium-ion batteries. This new section regarding the design requirements of the fire sprinkler system when areas containing lithium-ion batteries and lithium metal batteries. Where automatic sprinklers are required by this code for fire areas containing lithium-ion or lithium metal batteries, the design of the system shall be based on a series of fire tests. Such tests shall be conducted or witnessed and reported by an approved testing laboratory involving test scenarios that address the range of variables associated with the intended arrangement of the hazards to be protected. 903.3.5, page 149. Section 903.3.5 is amended to read as follows. Water supplies for automatic sprinkler systems shall comply with this section and the standards referenced in section 903.3.1. The potable water supply shall be protected against backflow in accordance with the requirements of this section and the International Plumbing Code. For connections to the public waterworks system, the water supply test shall be used for design. A fire protection system shall be adjusted to account for seasonal and daily pressure fluctuations based on the information from the Water Supply Authority and approved by the fire code official. Underground water supply piping shall be constructed of material allowed by the Fargo Municipal Code, Chapter 16 and Chapter 22, and shall be allowed to extend into the building through the slab or wall not more than 24 inches. This proposed amendment would allow the use of PVC pipe for the fire main as it passes into the building. Section 907.2.2.2 on page 161 is again in reference to some changes for lithium-ion batteries. New air sampling type radiant energy sensing fire alarm requirement to the Group B occupancy. Laboratories involving research, development, and testing. A fire alarm system activated by an air sampling type smoke detection system or radiant energy sensing detection system shall be installed throughout the entire fire area utilized for the research and development or testing of lithium-ion or lithium metal batteries. Section 907.2.4.1 on page 162, a similar requirement for Group F occupancies. A fire alarm system activated for the manufacturing involving lithium-ion or lithium metal batteries. A fire alarm system activated by air sampling type smoke detection systems or a radiant energy sensing detection system shall be installed throughout the entire fire area where lithium-ion or lithium metal batteries are manufactured, and where the manufacture of vehicles, energy storage systems, or equipment containing lithium-ion or lithium metal, where the batteries are installed as part of the manufacturing process. 907.2.7.2 on page 163. Again, a similar requirement for Group M occupancies in the storage of lithium-ion or lithium metal batteries. A fire alarm system activated by air sampling type smoke detection systems or radiant energy sensing detection system shall be installed in a room or space within a Group M occupancy where required for the storage of lithium-ion or lithium metal batteries by section 320. 907.2.10.2 on page 164, a similar requirement for Group S occupancies. Storage of lithium-ion or lithium metal batteries. A fire alarm system activated by air sampling type smoke detection or radiant energy sensing detection systems shall be installed throughout the entire fire area where required for the storage of lithium-ion or lithium metal batteries required by section 320. 907.2.11.1 on page 164 is amended to read as follows. Group R1, single or multiple station smoke alarms shall be installed in all of the following locations in Group 1. Subsection 4 is the amendments. In sleeping areas where the ceiling height of a room open to the hallway serving the sleeping room exceeds that of the hallway by 24 inches or more, smoke alarms shall be installed in the hallway and in the adjacent room. This amendment is to align with the amendment made in the IBC. 907.2.11.2 on page 164, a local amendment to the group R2, R3, R4, and I1 single or multiple station smoke alarm requirements. Our amendment is to read as follows. In dwelling units where the ceiling height of a room open to the hallway serving the sleeping room exceeds that of the hallway by 24 inches or more, smoke alarms shall be installed in the hallway and in the adjacent room. Again, this amendment is to align with the amendment made to the IBC. 907.8.3, page 171. Section 907.8.3 smoke detector sensitivity. It's deleted in its entirety, and this section is adequately addressed through the maintenance requirements of NFPA 72. Section 915.1 on page 188. For a while here, we're going to talk about some changes that are made in regards to carbon monoxide detection. So this new exception to the carbon monoxide requirement states that carbon monoxide detection is not required in Group S, Group F, Group U occupancies that are not normally occupied. These next sections that I'm going to read to you, you're going to very quickly learn that the change that's been made throughout the code here is that carbon monoxide detection is now required in every occupied space that contains a fuel burning appliance or any potential to produce carbon monoxide, attached garages, things like that. So that's a pretty significant change moving forward. 915.1.1 on page 188, new requirements for carbon monoxide detection where required. Carbon monoxide detection shall be installed in the locations specified in section 915.2 where any of the following conditions exist. In buildings that contain a CO source, in buildings that contain or are supplied by a CO producing forced air furnace, in buildings with an attached private garage, in buildings that have a CO producing vehicle that is used within the building. 915.3.2, page 189, new requirements for carbon monoxide detection. Fire alarm system required. New buildings that are required by section 907.2 to have a fire alarm system and by 915.2 to have carbon monoxide detectors shall be connected to the fire alarm system in accordance with NFPA 72. 915.3.3, page 189, new requirement for carbon monoxide detection. 915.3.3, fire alarm system not required. In new buildings that are not required by section 907.2 to have a fire alarm system, carbon monoxide detection shall be provided by one of the following means. Carbon monoxide detectors connect to an approved carbon monoxide detection system in accordance with NFPA 72. Carbon monoxide detectors connected to an approved carbon combination system in accordance with NFPA 72. Carbon monoxide detectors connected to an approved fire alarm system in accordance with NFPA 72, or where approved by the fire code official, carbon monoxide alarms maintained in accordance with the manufacturer's instructions. 915.4.4, page 189, a new carbon monoxide subsection. Interconnection. Where more than one carbon monoxide alarm is required to be installed, carbon monoxide alarm shall be interconnected in such a manner that the actuation of one alarm will activate all of the alarms. Physical interconnection of carbon monoxide alarms shall not be required, but where listed wireless alarms are installed and all alarms sound upon activation of one alarm. 915.5.4, page 190, new carbon monoxide subsection, occupant notification. Activation of a carbon monoxide detector shall enunciate at the control unit and shall initiate audible and visible alarm notification throughout the building. Exception, occupant notification is permitted to be limited to the area where the carbon monoxide signal originated and other signaling zones in accordance with the fire safety plan, provided that the alarm signal from the activated carbon monoxide detector is automatically transmitted to an approved on-site or off-premise location. 917.2, page 191, new mass notification risk analysis requirement for new Group E occupancies with an occupant load of 500 or more. Mass notification systems to be installed depending on the results of the risk analysis. Chapter 10, means of egress. Section 1009.8.1, page 205. shall be amended to read as follows. System requirements. Two-way communication system shall provide communication between each required location and the Fire Command Center or central control point location approved by the fire department. Where the central control point is not constantly attended, a two-way communication system shall have a timed automatic telephone dial-out capability that provides two-way communication with an approved supervising station. The two-way and we're removing or emergency services, that's the amendment. The two-way communication system shall include both audible and visible signals. System shall be listed in accordance with UL 2525 and installed in accordance with NFPA 72. This amendment removes the possibility of having a system directly dialed to dispatch. Fire alarms codes restrict dialers from calling directly to dispatch centers in order to ensure the reliability of the center. This amendment will treat two-way communication systems similarly. 1011.1 on page 216. It's a local amendment to read as follows. Section exception. Exception 2, a stairway complying with section 1011, except where in a B, F, M, S, or U that serves an area of 750 square feet or less and is not open to the public, that has a maximum riser height of 8 inches and a minimum tread depth of 9 inches, has a minimum width of 36 inches, and has at least one handrail that terminates at the top and bottom riser, otherwise complies with section 1014. This amendment is requested to align with the amendment to the IBC. Section 1011.5.2 on page 216, amendment to read as follows. In Group R3 occupancies within dwelling units, in Group R2 occupancies, and in Group U occupancies that are accessory to Group R3 occupancies or accessory to individual dwelling units in Group R2 occupancies, the maximum riser height shall be 8 inches and the minimum tread depth shall be 9 inches. Stairways used only to attend equipment or private stairs serving an occupant load of 10 or fewer persons and which are not accessible to the public are permitted to have a maximum 8-inch riser height and a minimum 9-inch tread depth. This is also to align with the amendment to the IBC. Section 1032.2.2.2 on page 246. This is a new section that's going to identify the examination and maintenance requirements for fire escape stairs. So it's just clarifying a requirement that's been in the code, but spelling out the specific requirements. That concludes significant changes and amendments to chapters 8 through 10. Are there any questions?
I have a question. I need to back up to where it's at here. 903.3.5, water supplies. So it looks like they're adding this requirement that the fire protection can't go more than 24 inches into the building. Do we know what's driving that?
So that 24-inch requirement comes out of the NFPA 13 and 24 for that you can't have CPVC enter more than 24 inches into the building. So that's just carried over
Okay.
from another standard.
All right. Yeah, I can see that presenting some challenges, but I don't recall seeing the 24 inches before. I don't know if that's a new thing altogether or if it's always been there.
You know, I would have to go back and look. I'm not sure when it came into the standard either. And that's just if you're using CPVC.
Oh,
So
sure.
if you're still
Yep.
using ductile iron, you can come up further, but it's limited to the use of CPVC
Okay.
or
Thank you.
PVC. Any other questions?
No.
Okay.
Morning. Morning. My name is Trevor Risgard, Deputy Fire Marshal. I'll be presenting significant changes on chapters 12 through 26. So starting with chapter 12, chapter 12 has more significant changes than the rest of my chapters. It's on energy systems. Several places where it says energy storage systems will be abbreviated for ESS. Starting with section 1201.1, page 265. 1201.1 scope added that this chapter also applied to energy storage systems under the exclusive control of an electric utility or lawful designated agency. Added that section 1207 shall comply with this chapter as appropriate and NFPA 855. NFPA 855 is the standard for the installation of stationary energy storage systems and has been added to several sections of Chapter 12. Section 1205.2, page 268. Section 1205.2, access to pathways. Exception 3, added language to comply with UL 1341. This has also been added to several sections of Chapter 12. UL 3741 was added to replace a national test standard developed to address Section 690.12B2 of NFPA 70. UL 3741 addresses safety procedures and principles for evaluating and recognizing compliance for rapid shutdown of photovoltaic arrays that protect firefighters from shock hazards on rooftop with solar panels. To achieve UL 3741 certification, products must pass a series of tests designed to simulate situations firefighters may encounter on a solar rooftop. The testing analyzes what happens when first responders fall on damaged solar panels while wearing typical protective gear. Section 1205.2.3, page 269, language added to existing markings requirements for areas to avoid ladder placement and requiring markings to be visible from beneath the eaves. Section 1207.1, page 272, new section allowing exceptions for electrical energy storage systems for capacitors and capacitor equipment for electric utilities and industrial facilities. 1207.1.2, page 272, new section allowing mobile electric energy storage systems at an electrical substation or generation facility for 90 days or less shall not be added to the threshold values stated in the following table. And table 1207.1.3, page 272, added the following battery technologies to the table: nickel metal hydride, nickel zinc batteries, non-electrochemical ESS, sodium nickel chloride batteries, removed nickel hydride battery, metal hydride from that section, added zinc manganese dioxide batteries. Section 1207.1.5, page 273, added bullet point 11 requiring a fire safety and evacuation plan to be submitted with the permit application. Section 1207.1.5.1, page 273, section added requiring plans and specifications associated with ESS owned and operated by electric utilities as a component of the electric grid that are considered critical infrastructure documents shall be made available to the fire code official for viewing. Section 1207.1.6, page 273, added bullet point 4 allowing the fire code official to require a failure mode and effect analysis to address a potential hazard with an ESS installation that is not addressed by existing requirements. Section 1207.1.6.1, page 273, added and removed language about what a hazard mitigation analysis shall evaluate. Section 1207.1.8.1, page 274, where a fire has damaged an ESS, the responsible party shall dispatch fire mitigation personnel within 15 minutes. Prior code stated that the dispatch shall be immediate. Section 1207.2.1, page 274, added exceptions for commissioning newly installed and existing ESS. New exceptions include lead acid and nickel cadmium battery systems in telecommunications facilities, and for DC power for control of substations that are exclusively controlled by the electrical utility. Section 1207.3.1, page 275, exceptions to the UL 9540 listing requirements for energy storage systems apply to lead acid and nickel cadmium battery systems in telecommunications facilities, and for DC power for control of substations that are exclusively controlled by the electrical utility. Section 1207.3.7.1, page 276, changing out or retrofitting of lead acid and nickel cadmium batteries with other lead acid and nickel cadmium batteries shall be considered repair if there is no increase in system size or energy capacity greater than 10% of the original design. MAQ table 1207.5, page 277, added the following storage batteries: nickel metal hydride, nickel zinc, sodium nickel chloride, and zinc manganese dioxide. Section 1207.5.1, page 277, added two sizes and separation exceptions: lead acid battery systems used for DC power for substations controlled by the electric utilities and are outside, and systems utilized for standby power that are UL 1778 compliant. Section 1207.5.3, page 278, added two elevation exceptions: lead acid battery systems used for DC power for substations controlled by electric utilities and are outside, and systems utilized for standby power that are UL 1778 compliant. Section 1207.5.4, page 278, fire detection exception for normally unoccupied remote telecommunications structures less than 1,500 square feet. Section 1207.5.5, page 278, suppression systems are not required for lead acid battery systems used for DC power for substations controlled by electric utilities and are outside, and systems utilized for standby power that are UL 1778 compliant. Table 1207.6, page 279, added zinc manganese dioxide and sodium nickel chloride batteries. 1207.6.3, page 280, 4 exceptions were added for explosion control in rooms or cabinets. Number 3, ESS cabinets that have no debris or shrapnel shall be permitted in lieu of explosion control complying with section 911. Bullet point 4, no explosion control is required for less than 50 VAC in telecommunication facilities. Number 5, explosion control is not required. Lead acid battery systems are used for DC power for substations controlled by electrical utilities and are outside. And number 6, explosion control is not required for lead acid battery systems used in uninterruptible power supplies for standby power that are UL 1778 compliant. Section 1207.10.1 on page 284, exceptions added for charging and storage pertaining to where on a site an ESS can be charged and stored. The exception, mobile ESS used to temporarily provide power to systems that are used for DC power for control of substations exclusively controlled by electric utilities and are outdoors. Section 1207.10.2 on page 284, exception added for deployment pertaining to where on a site an ESS can be located when not being charged and stored. The exception, mobile ESS used for temporarily provide power to systems that are used for DC power for control of substations exclusively controlled by electric utility and outdoors. Section 1207.11, page 286, ESS in group R3 and R4 occupancies. Exception states that an ESS used in dwelling units must be listed and labeled in accordance with UL 9540 and marked for use in residential dwelling units and installed in accordance with NFPA 70 and manufacturer's instructions. Section 1207.11.3, page 286, locations within R3s or R4 units where an ESS is allowed, added language requiring that the dwelling units and sleeping units be finished or non-combustible walls and ceilings. Walls and ceilings of unfinished wood-framed construction shall be provided with not less than 5/8 inch Type X gypsum wallboard. Section 1207.11.7.1, page 286, requirements to protect ESS systems from impact inside garages of R3 and R4 occupancies. Section 1207.11.7.1, page 287, new figure depicting acceptable ESS vehicle impact protection. Section 1207.11.7.2 on page 288, new section pertaining to impact protection in other locations susceptible to impact that are not in a garage. Section 1207.11.7.3, Page 288, new section explaining impact protection options and construction requirements. That concludes chapter 12. Chapters 13 and 19 are still reserved for future use. Chapter 20 is aviation facilities. There were no changes to chapter 20. Chapter 21 is dry cleaning. There were no changes to chapter 21. Chapter 22, combustible dust producing operations. There were no changes to chapter 22. Chapter 23 is motor fuel dispensing facilities and repair garages. Section 2303.1 on page 306. Section 2303.1 is amended by adding the following subsection 7. On new installations, dispensing devices used to fill portable containers with home heating fuel shall not be located on the same island where Class 1 liquids are dispensed. Section 2306.1 on page 309 is amended to read the following. 2306.1 general storage of flammable and combustible liquids shall be in accordance with chapter 57 and sections 2306.2 through 2306.6. See also Fargo Municipal Code section 9-0604. Fargo Municipal Code 9-0604 relates to the licensing of service stations and bulk oil dealers as per the auditor's office. Chapter 2309.6 on page 318, repairs, purging, defueling, and discharging. Section for hydrogen motor fuel dispensing added clarifying language to the exception and added defueling in accordance with section 2311.8.11. That concludes chapter 23. Chapter 24 is flammable finishes. Section 2404.2 on page 325, inflatable or portable enclosures shall not be used for spray application of flammable finishes. An exception is spray applications in marinas or dry docking areas and comply with 2404.3. Membrane structures must comply with NFPA 33. Section 2404.5.4, page 326, new section limited finishing workstations shall comply with NFPA 33 and sections 2404.6 through 2404.10. According to NFPA 33, a limited finish workstation is not a spray booth or spray room, but a power ventilated apparatus that is capable of confining vapors, mists, residues, etc. that are generated by a limited spray application process. Section 2404.8.1.2.1 on page 327 for spray booth drying processes, automatic shutoff, increase the maximum allowable discharge air temperature from 200 degrees to 221 degrees Fahrenheit, or the heater's listing. Chapter 25 is fruit and crop ripening. There were no changes to chapter 25. Chapter 26 is fumigation and insecticidal fogging. There were no changes to chapter 26. That concludes significant changes for chapters 12 to 26. Any questions? Okay,
So
thank you.
there's one here that I had on the garages, where it's now 5/8 sheetrock, where I know it used to be kind of half-inch, could be on the wall between the two spaces. Is that been, now on all residential structures, that they want a full 5/8 separation due to electric cars and things like that, or where are we seeing that?
You know, I would have to default to Sean on that, the separations between the garage and the living space for residential occupancies
Yeah.
with
Yeah,
electric vehicles.
'cause I know it had been 5/8 on the ceilings and it could be half on the wall, but is this now putting a 5/8 on everything in garages?
We haven't gone through the IRC yet, so I don't 100% know if they've changed that to 5/8 in the IRC. We're
Okay.
doing that now. It would be in response, I do believe, to the electric cars being parked in there and the charging and the batteries and things like that. The increased fire protection would be needed for a dwelling unit if, if a car were to go up, if the batteries were to overheat and cause a fire in the garage, it would be an added protection. But like I said, we haven't gone through that section yet in the IRC, so I don't know if it's changed in there or not, so.
Okay, I'll have to follow that when we get to that point, so, all right. Thank you.
Hello, Joe Spear, Deputy Fire Marshal. I have chapters 27 through 35. Chapter 27, Semiconductor Fabrication Facilities, Section 2704.2.2.1, page 342. Quantity limits for hazardous materials in a single fabrication area in an H5 have changed in Table 2704.2.2.1. Chapter 28, lumberyards, agro-industrial, solid biomass, and woodworking facilities had no significant changes. Chapter 29, manufacture of organic coatings had no significant changes. Chapter 30, industrial ovens had no significant changes. Chapter 31, tents, temporary special event structures, and other membrane structures. 3103.5, construction documents. Page 355, water-filled vessels used to anchor a tank or membrane structure shall be in accordance with section 3103.8.1 and 3103.8.1. Water-filled vessels on page 356 reads, water-filled vessels shall be permitted to be used where approved and in accordance with the tent and membrane structure manufacturer's load specifications. 3106, inflatable amusement devices on 359. New section, inflatable amusement devices with applicable requirements including general combustible materials, electrical equipment, generators, and fire extinguisher compliance. 3107.2, general. 359, section 3107.2, general is amended to read as the follows. Outdoor assembly events with planned attendance exceeding 1,000 people shall be in accordance with this section and section 403.1.11. Temporary structures erected for outdoor assembly events shall comply with this chapter. This amendment will set the threshold where events shall be required to comply with the safety requirements from section 3107. Section 3108.4, page 360, open or exposed flame shall be permitted inside or located within 10 feet, was 20 feet in the 2021 IFC. Exception, cooking devices shall comply with section 3108.12. Section 3108.12, page 360, temporary heating and cooking equipment shall be in accordance with chapter 41. Permanent heating and cooking equipment shall be in accordance with chapter 6. Chapter 32, high piled storage, section 3208.3, page 377, wording added for flue space measurement on table 3208.3. The space taken up by rack uprights that is not obstructed by commodities or solid shelving is allowed to be included in the transverse flue space measurement. Chapter 33, fire safety during construction and demolition. 3303, page 379, wording change from owner's responsibility for fire protection to administrative safety controls. 3303.1, on page 379, is amended to read as follows. Program development and maintenance, the owner or owner's authorized agent shall be responsible for the development, implementation, and maintenance of approved written site safety plan establishing a fire prevention program at the project site applicable through all phases of construction, repair, alteration, or demolition work. When required by the fire code official, the plan will be submitted and approved before a building permit is issued. This amendment will require the site safety plan submitted prior to building permit when required by the fire code official. This allows smaller projects to obtain a permit without submitting a plan. However, the site will still be required to comply with 3303. Section 3303.1.1 on page 379, components of the site safety plans, new wording added to 11, provisions for site security and required for a fire watch. Section 3303.3 on 379, daily fire safety inspection added to the list is number 11, where a fire watch is required in accordance with section 3303.5. Fire watch records required by that section are up to date. Section 3304, page 381, change from temporary heating equipment to protection of combustible materials. Section 3305 on 381, change from precautions against fire to ignition source controls. Section 3305.8, also on 381, change from general to portable generators. 3305.10 on page 381, change from general to safeguarding roof operations. On section 3306 on page 382, change from flammable and combustible liquids to fire protection systems and devices. Section 3306.5 on 382, change from completion before occupancy to automatic sprinkler system. Section 3306.6, 382, change from where required to portable fire extinguishers. 3307, page 382, change from flammable gases to fire department site access and water supply. Section 3307.2 on page 382, change from where required to water supply for fire protections. Section 3307.5 on 383, change from where required to standpipes. 3308 on page 383, change from explosive materials to motorized construction equipment. Page 3309, or section 3309, page 383, change from portable generators to hazardous materials. Section 3310 on 384, change from fire reporting to additional safeguards for occupied buildings. 3311 on page 384, change from access to firefighting to additional safeguards for type 1 and 2 construction. Then 3312 also on 384, change from the means of egress to additional safeguards for type 4 construction. And then 3312.1 on page 384, exceptions, and an exception was added in bullet point 2, non-combustible material on top of mass timber floor assemblies shall not be required before erecting additional floor levels. And then section 33, 13, 14, 15, and 16 were all removed. On chapter 34, tire rebuilding and tire storage, no significant changes. Chapter 35, welding and other hot work. Section 3501.3 on page 387, just added the word automatic in front of sprinkler system. That is all my chapters. Any questions?
All right. Good morning, everyone. My name is Ryan Young, also Deputy Fire Marshal. I will be presenting on chapters 36 through 41, actually 36 through 49. Okay, so chapters 36, marinas, no changes. 37, combustible fibers, no changes. And 38, higher education laboratories, also no changes. Chapter 39, processing and extraction facilities. We do have some stuff here. 3901.1 on page 399, that is the scope. And the section was just rewritten to clean up and simplify the language. The description of the process of extraction was removed. Also underneath the scope, 3901.1, a new exception was added for greenhouses in compliance with section 3112 that do not utilize carbon dioxide enrichment. 3901.2 on page 399, existing buildings or facilities. Language, some language changes here. Plant oils using solvents was put in place for the word plants and to include the use of solvents to replace or solvents. So just a little bit more descriptive there. 3901.4 on page 399, lighting. This is a new section added requiring lighting systems to be listed and labeled in accordance with UL 8800 and installed in accordance with the listing, manufacturer's installation instructions, and NFPA 70. 3901.5 on page 399, carbon dioxide generation. This is a new section requiring carbon dioxide enrichment atmospheres generated using methods to create carbon dioxide as a byproduct shall meet the requirements of section 5307.4.1 and 5307.4.7. 3903.7 on page 399, means of egress. This is just a new section requiring egress doors in the areas used for extraction to swing in the direction of egress travel. 3904.2 on page 400, systems and equipment, just language change or processing added to extraction systems and equipment. 3905.3 on page 401, ventilation. Another new section requiring continuous mechanical exhaust ventilation to be provided in accordance with section 3905.3.1 through 3905.4 and chapter 4 of the mechanical code. 3905.3.1, page 401, extraction processes using flammable or combustible liquids or gases. This is a new subsection stating the requirements for the extraction processes using flammable or combustible liquids or gases. This includes an exception allowing the minimum required rate of exhaust to be reduced when a registered design professional can demonstrate an engineered mechanical exhaust will prevent the maximum concentration of contaminants from exceeding 25% of the LEL. 3905.3.2 on page 401, extraction processes using compressed asphyxiant or inert gases. This is a new subsection requiring continuous mechanical exhaust ventilation where the extraction processes use compressed asphyxiants, or inert gases. 3905.3.3 on page 401, post-extraction processes using flammable or combustible liquids or gases. New subsection requiring continuous mechanical exhaust in accordance with 5004.3, where flammable liquids, combustible liquids heated above their flash point, or flammable gases are used in post-extraction processing. 3905.3.4 on page 401, interlocks. Another new subsection requiring interlocks on electrical equipment and appliances that are used in processes that generate flammable vapors or gases. The equipment shall be interlocked so the equipment cannot be operated unless ventilation fans are in operation. That's it for chapter 39. So chapter 40, storage of distilled spirits and wine. We had a fair amount of new content here too. 4005.1 on page 403, palletized storage of distilled spirits in wooden barrels. This section was the 2021 code was titled automatic sprinkler systems, and it was changed. The section title was changed to palletized storage of distilled spirits in wooden barrels. Language is expanded in this section to require the palletized storage of distilled spirits in wooden barrels to be protected by an automatic sprinkler system in accordance with 903.3.1.1. The palletized storage of metal containers of distilled spirits shall be protected by an automatic sprinkler system in accordance with Chapter 57. 4005.1.1, page 403, storage height. This is a new subsection requiring palletized storage arrays of barrels stored on end to be limited to a maximum of 7 pallets in height. 4005.1.2, page 403, flue spaces. This is also a new subsection requiring a minimum 6-inch flue space maintained between adjacent pallets. 4005.1.3 on page 403, loading aisles. New subsection defining the 3 allowed options for defined loading aisles between pallet storage areas. 4005.1.3.1, page 403, draft curtains. New subsection stating requirements for draft curtains used in loading areas for palletized storage of distilled spirits and wines. 4005.1.3.1.1 on page 403, construction. Subsection stating the requirements for the construction of draft curtains. 4005.1.3.1.2 on page 403, the location. New section stating draft curtains shall be located along loading aisles and serving storage areas. 4005.1.3.1.3, page 403, depth. New subsection stating the draft curtain shall extend downward from the ceiling for a minimum distance of 20% of the ceiling height and with a minimum depth of 6 feet. 4005.1.4 on page 403, automatic sprinkler system design. This is a new section stating sprinkler system design be in accordance with tables 4005.1.4 and sections 4005.1.4.1 through 4005.1.4.6. 4005.1.4.1, page 404, protected product. This is a new subsection stating sprinkler requirements in table 4005.1.4 apply to alcohol water mixtures greater than 20% and up to 75% alcohol by volume in wooden barrels not exceeding 130 gallons. 4005.1.4.2, page 404, host stream allowance, new subsection requiring 500 gallons per minute host stream allowance. 4005.1.4.3 on page 404, water supply duration, new subsection stating a minimum 1 hour water supply duration for automatic sprinkler system design. 4005.1.4.4 on page 404, automatic sprinkler system balancing. This is a new subsection stating that where a permanent loading aisle is provided with a separate automatic sprinkler system on the ceiling, the barrel storage automatic sprinkler design and the loading aisle automatic sprinkler designs are not required to be balanced at the point of connection. 4005.1.4.5 on page 404, dry pipe sprinkler systems. New subsection stating where dry pipe sprinklers are installed, the water delivery time shall be within 40 seconds to the 4 most remote heads. 4005.1.4.6 on page 404, small distilled spirits facilities. New subsection requiring palletized storage of distilled spirits in facilities not greater than 7,500 square feet be in accordance with sections 4005.1.4.6.1 through 4005.1.4.6.3. 4005.1.4.6.1 on page 404, ceiling clearance. This is a new subsection requiring 18 inches of clearance between the storage and sprinklers and a maximum storage height of 10 feet. 4005.1.4.6.2 on page 404, automatic sprinkler coverage area. This is a new subsection requiring sprinkler coverage area not to exceed 80 square feet. 4005.1.4.6.3 on page 404, fire protection scheme. A new subsection stating storage arrangements and automatic sprinkler system design be in accordance with table 4005.1.4.6, which is on the next page. 4005.2 on page 404, rack storage and wooden barrels. This is a new section stating the rack storage of distilled spirits and wine greater than 20% alcohol shall be protected by an approved automatic sprinkler system installed throughout in accordance with 903.3.1.1 and sections 4005.2.1 through 4005.2.3.6. 4005.2.1 on page 404, flue spaces for on-side wooden barrels. This is a new subsection stating rack storage for on-side wooden barrels be provided with a minimum width of 8 inches between adjacent rows of barrels. 4005.2.1.1 on page 404, elevated walkways. New subsection stating the construction requirements for the elevated walkways between barrels. 4005.2.2 on page 404, flue spaces for on-end wooden barrels. New subsection requiring transverse and longitudinal flue spaces with a minimum of 6 inches. 4005.2.3 on page 404, fire protection for rack storage. This is a new section requiring rack storage of alcohol water mixtures up to 75% alcohol in wooden barrels with sizes not exceeding 130 gallons to be protected in accordance with sections 4005.2.3.1 through 4005.2.3.6. 4005.2.3.1 on page 405. This is hose stream allowance, new subsection requiring the 500 gallons per minute hose stream allowance. 4005.2.3.2 on page 405, water supply duration. Okay. Also requiring a minimum 1 hour water supply duration, including the hose stream demand. 4005.2.3.3 on page 405, dry pipe automatic sprinkler system. This is new subsection requiring dry pipe sprinkler systems to meet the 40-second water delivery time to the 4 most remote heads. 4005.2.3.4 on page 405, ceiling automatic sprinkler systems, a new subsection requiring a minimum density of 0.2 gallons per minute per square foot with an operating area of 2,000 square feet. 4005.2.3.5 on page 405, automatic sprinkler system balancing. This is a new subsection requiring the sprinkler systems at the ceiling and the in-rack system be balanced at the point of connection. 4005.2.3.6 on page 405, automatic sprinkler system design, a new subsection requiring automatic sprinkler systems and in-rack systems be in accordance with table 4005.2.3.6. Okay, that's the next one. So then, 4005.2.3.6 on page 407. These are figures for different storage arrangements for wooden barrels on their sides. And that's the plan view. And then section 4005.3.2.6, parentheses, the number 2 in parentheses on page 407, that would be for the elevation view. And then 4005.2.3.6, parentheses 3 on page 408. This is an in-rack sprinkler layout for single row rack of on-end wooden barrels. And then 4005.2.3.6, parentheses 4 on page 409. This is a new figure for double row rack storage for in-rack sprinkler layout. And then 4005.2.3.6, parentheses 5 on page 410. This is in-rack sprinkler layout for multiple row rack of on-end wooden barrels, a new figure for multiple row rack storage. Okay, and that's it for for those. On 4005.3 on page 410, wine with 20% or less alcohol content. New section stating wine with 20% or less alcohol content be protected by an approved automatic sprinkler system. And then lastly there, 4005.4 on page 410, portable fire extinguishers. This section was just renumbered from 4005.2 in the 2021 edition. Okay, so chapter 41, temporary heating and cooking operations. This is a new chapter to address temporary heating and cooking operations. Many of the requirements were previously contained in chapters 3, 6, and 31, and they were all brought together in a new chapter with some additional new content. So 4101.1 on page 411, this is just the new section stating the provisions of the chapter. 4101.2 on page 411, permits. This is a new section stating, referencing section 105.5 for required operational permits. And in 4101.3 on page 411, listed equipment. This is a new section requiring mobile and portable equipment and devices used for temporary heating and cooking to be listed and labeled, and then also installed and maintenance be in accordance with the listing and manufacturer's instructions. 4101.4 on page 411, operation and maintenance. New section requiring building or equipment owners or operators to maintain equipment in accordance with manufacturer's instructions and this section. 4101.4.1 on page 411, wildlife risk area. This is a new subsection requiring temporary heating and cooking operations to be in accordance with applicable local wildfire risk regulations. 4101.4.2 on page 411, attendance. New subsection requiring mobile and portable heating and cooking equipment to be constantly attended while in use until it has cooled to a safe temperature. 4101.4.3 on page 411, fire extinguishers. New subsection requiring not fewer than one portable fire extinguisher complying with section 906 with a minimum of a 4A rating. 4101.6 on page 411, LP gas. This section moved from chapter 31 of the 2021 IFC, and the section reference changed to 4101.6.1 and 4101.6.3. 4101.6.4 on page 411, refueling. This is a new subsection requiring the exchanging of LP containers to be conducted in accordance with chapter 61. Liquid transfer of LP gas shall be in accordance with chapter 7 of NFPA 58. 4101.7 on page 411, oil-fired heaters. A new section requiring oil-fired cooking and heating equipment to comply with section 605 and this chapter. 4101.8 on page 411, refueling of flammable and combustible liquid-fueled equipment. This is a new section requiring refueling operations for liquid-fueled equipment to be conducted in accordance with section 5705 and the following. Refueling operations for liquid-fueled equipment or devices shall be conducted by trained personnel in accordance with the manufacturer's instructions and this code. The equipment or devices shall be turned off and allowed to cool prior to refueling, and operations shall be conducted in a well-ventilated area at a minimum of 10 feet from any building or structure. 4101.9, page 411, cooking operations. New section requiring portable cooking equipment using combustible oils or solids to comply with the following. Number one, a non-combustible lid shall be immediately available. The lid shall be of sufficient size to cover the cooking well completely. Number two, equipment shall be placed on a non-combustible surface. And number three, a portable fire extinguisher for protection appropriate to the cooking media shall be provided at a location approved by the fire code official. 4101.10 on page 412, hazard abatement. This is a new section requiring unsafe conditions or operations to be abated. Equipment and devices that are modified or damaged and constitute an electrical or fire hazard shall not be used. 4101.10.1 on page 412, correction of unsafe conditions. New section stating the fire code official shall be authorized to require the owner's authorized agent, operator, or user of the equipment to abate unsafe operations and conditions, or cause such conditions to be abated or corrected by either removal, repair, rehabilitation, disposal, or other approved correction action in compliance with this code. 4103 on page 412, portable fuel-fired heating appliances, a new section addressing the use of portable fuel-fired heating appliances. 4104 on page 14, portable fuel-fired cooking appliances. This is a new section with the requirements for the use of portable fuel-fired cooking appliances. 4104.1 on page 413, portable fuel-fired cooking appliances. This is a new section stating that portable fuel-fired cooking appliances shall be permitted to be used in all occupancies in accordance with this section. 4104.2 on page 413, open flame cooking devices. Section was moved and it's amended to read as follows. 4104.2, open flame cooking devices. Charcoal burners and other open flame cooking devices shall not be operated on combustible balconies or decks within 10 feet of combustible construction. Exceptions, 1 and 2 family dwellings. Number 2, where buildings, balconies, and decks are protected by an automatic sprinkler system. And then number 3, LP cooking devices having LP gas containers with a water capacity of not greater than 20 pounds. This is a longstanding amendment that allows for the common size of LPG tanks, and it is restricted to only 1 tank. So this is a standard amendment we've had in the code for a while. 4104.3 on page 413, indoor cooking. The new subsection stating the portable fuel-fired cooking appliances used indoors shall not be located within 10 feet of exits or combustible materials. 4104.4 on page 413, cooking operations. This section was moved from 3107.12.6 in the 2021 IFC. Language was changed to reduce the separation of cooking from tensor membrane structures from 20 feet to 10 feet when the following conditions are met. Cooking devices shall be isolated from the public, and cooking devices shall be maintained according to the manufacturer's instructions. An exception was also added to remove the separation requirements when the tent is protected by an automatic sprinkler system. 4104.5 on page 413, separation of cooking tents. Separation of cooking tents from non-cooking tents or membrane structures are reduced from 20 feet to 10 feet. An exemption is added for accessory tents limited to 100 square feet. 4104.5.1 on page 413, groups of cooking tents. This is a new subsection allowing tents to be placed side by side when, number 1, the area of the cooking tents has a maximum area of 700 square feet. Number 2, each grouping of tents shall have a fire break clearance of at least 12 feet. And number 3, a fire access aisle separating rows of cooking tents has a minimum of 16 feet of clearance. 4105 on page 413, portable cooking appliances. This is a new section added for portable cooking appliances. 4105.1 on 413. This is a new section allowing the use of portable cooking appliances in all occupancies in accordance with 4105.1.1 through 4105.1.5. 4105.1.1 on page 413, listed and labeled. This is a new subsection requiring portable electric cooking appliances to be labeled and listed and used in accordance with their listing and manufacturer's instructions. 4105.1.2 on page 413, power supply. A new subsection requiring portable electric cooking appliances to be plugged directly into an approved receptacle or connected to a relocatable power tap rated at 20 amps. 4105.1.3 on page 413, extension cords. This is a new subsection stating portable electric cooking appliances shall not be plugged into extension cords. 4105.1.4 on page 413, temporary connections. New subsection stating temporary use portable cooking appliances shall be disconnected from the power supply when not in use. 4105.1.5 on page 414, prohibited areas. This is a new subsection stating portable electric cooking appliances shall not be operated within 3 feet of any combustibles or in a Group H occupancy. They should be only operated in locations for which they are listed. 4106 on page 414, mobile food preparation vehicles. This section was also moved from Chapter 3 in the 2021 code. 4106.1 on page 414, general. Language added to require mobile fuel preparation vehicles that are equipped with appliances that produce smoke or grease-laden vapors for the purposes of preparing, cooking, or serving food shall comply with NFPA 96. Also, it states the indoor use of mobile food preparation vehicles is prohibited unless approved by the AHJ. 4106.4 on page 414, maintenance, subsection removed from 319.4, and the title was changed from fire protection to maintenance. Maintenance of systems on mobile food preparation vehicles shall be in accordance with sections 4106.4.1 through 4106.4.3. Section 4106.4.1 on page 414, exhaust systems. This section was also moved with some language changes. The new language requiring the exhaust systems, including hood, grease removal fans, ducts, and appurtenances to be inspected and cleaned in accordance with NFPA 96. 4106.4.2 on page 414, fire protection systems and devices. Section was moved from 319.4.2 and changed from fire extinguisher to fire protection systems and devices. And fire protection systems and devices shall be maintained in accordance with section 901.6. 4106.4.3 on page 414, fuel gas systems. It's a new subsection requiring fuel gas systems to be maintained in accordance with sections 4106.4.3.1 through 4106.4.3.4. 4106.4.3.1 on page 414, LP gas systems. A new subsection requiring LP gas containers installed on the vehicles and fuel gas piping systems shall be inspected annually by an approved inspection agency, person, or special expert who is qualified to ensure the system components are free from damage, suitable for the intended service, and not subject to leaking. 4106.4.3.2 on page 414, CNG systems. New subsection requiring compressed natural gas containers and fuel gas piping systems to be inspected annually by an approved inspection agency, person, or special expert who is qualified to ensure that the system components are free from damage, suitable for the intended services, and not subject to leaking. 4106.4.3.3 on page 414, annual leakage test. This is a new subsection requiring all fuel gas piping systems and appliances to be checked annually for leakage at the operating pressure of the system using a manometer or pressure gauge. When leakage is indicated, the gas supply shall be turned off until repairs have been made and the system no longer leaks. 4106.4.3.4 on page 414, inspection tag. New subsection requiring, upon a satisfactory annual inspection, the approved inspection agency, person, or special expert shall affix a tag on the fuel gas system or within the vehicle indicating the name of the inspection agency and the date of the satisfactory inspection. And then 4106.5 on page 414, manual system operation for the automatic fire extinguishing system. Okay, this section was moved from 319.5 and the title was changed from appliance connection to fuel supply system. Previous language was removed and new language states, a manual actuation device shall be provided for the automatic fire extinguishing system provided for the cooking appliances. The manual actuation device shall be unobstructed and in view from the means of egress located at or near the means of egress from the cooking area and at a location acceptable to the fire code official. Manual actuation device shall be installed not more than 48 inches nor less than 42 inches above the walking surface of the means of egress and should clearly identify the hazard protected. The manual actuation shall be required a maximum force of 40 pounds and a maximum movement of 14 inches to actuate the fire suppression system. That is it for chapter 41. And then lastly, chapters 42 through 49 are all reserved for future use. Any questions? That was a lot. Excellent. Thank you.
Good morning. Brett Berg, Deputy Fire Marshal. Be covering chapters 50 through 60. Hazardous materials. Table 5003.1.1, parentheses 1, maximum allowable quantity per control area of hazardous materials posing a physical hazard on page 421. Footnote C was replaced and now refers to section 428 of the IBC and chapter 38 for hazardous materials in group B higher education laboratory occupancies. The information from this old footnote C is now located on page 424 in the new table 5003.1.1 parentheses 5 hazardous materials exemptions under alcoholic beverages. Footnote I was changed in the relabeling of the footnotes for this table. This information from old footnote I is now located on page 425. In the new table, 5003.1.1 parentheses 5, hazardous materials exemptions under fuel oil. Table 5003.1.1 parentheses 1, maximum allowable quantity per control area of hazardous materials posing a physical hazard on page 422. Footnote O was changed to footnote N and now refers to section 5704.3.6 for the unchanged requirements for flammable and combustible liquid storage in Group M occupancy, wholesale, and retail sales uses. The information from the old footnote O is now located on page 424 in the new table 5003.1.1 parentheses 5, hazardous materials exemptions under baled cotton. Footnote P was changed to footnote O and now states quantities in this table shall be modified in accordance with the new table 5003.1.1 parentheses 5, hazardous materials exemptions. The information from the old footnote P is now located on page 424 and 425 in the new table 5003.1.1 parentheses 5, hazardous materials exemptions under flammable and combustible liquid gases. Footnote Q now refers to high BV. The BV is the burning velocity, category 1B flammable gases. High BV flammable gas has a burn velocity greater than 3.9 inches per second or 10 centimeters per second, and low BV burning velocity flammable gases has a burning velocity equal or less to 3.9 inches per second. This information is used to clarify or classify flammable gases in table 5003.1.1 parentheses 1 on pages 420 through 422. This change is a move towards the global harmonization system, commonly referred to as GHS, of the classification and labeling of chemicals. This change is meant to make the application of safety codes and standards easier for all parties involved. Table 5003.1.1 parentheses 2, maximum allowable quantities per control area of hazardous materials posing a physical hazard on page 422. New footnote J now states quantities in this table shall be modified in accordance with the new table 5003.1.1 parentheses 5, hazardous materials exemptions. Table 5003.1.1 parentheses 3, maximum allowable quantities per control area of hazardous materials posing a physical hazard in an outdoor control area on page 422. New footnote E now refers to high BV, category 1B flammable gas. High BV flammable gas has a burn velocity greater than 3.9 inches per second, and low BV flammable gas has a burning velocity equal to or less than 3.9 inches per second. This information, again, is used to classify flammable gases in table 5003.1.1 parentheses 3 on pages 422 through 423. This is a change towards the global harmonization system of classification and labeling of chemicals. Table 5003.1.1 parentheses 5, hazardous materials exemptions. Page 424 through 425, this new table is largely previously used footnote exemptions. Some new exemptions have been added to clarify some gray areas in the code. These exemptions extend and expand storage and use capabilities that some sections of the code had previously limited when it was not necessarily the intent of the code. Table 5003.8.2, detached building required, pages 428 through 429. New footnote E states, does not apply to consumer fireworks division 1.4G. 5003.8.3.5.4, flammable gas on page 430. This is a new section. The aggregate quantity of category 1B flammable gas having a burning velocity of 3.9 inches per second or less stored and displayed within a single control area of a group M occupancy in an outdoor control area or stored in a single control area of a group S occupancy is allowed to exceed the maximum allowable quantities per control area as specified in table 5003.1.1 parentheses 1 without classifying the building or use as a group H occupancy, provided that the materials are stored and displayed in accordance with section 5003.11.2. Section 5003.11.2, category 1B flammable gases with now burning velocity. Page 433, new section. The aggregate quantity of category 1B flammable gas having a burning velocity of 3.9 inches per second or less and stored within a single control area of a group M occupancy in an outdoor control area or stored in a single control area of a group S occupancy shall not exceed the amount set forth in table 5003.11.2. Table 5003.11.2, maximum allowable quantity of low burning velocity category 1B flammable gas in group M and S occupancies per control area on page 434. This is a new table. The information in this table is used to ensure that flammable gases with low BV are stored correctly in M and S occupancies with regards to the quantities and sprinklered versus non-sprinklered. This is a change towards the global harmonization system of the classification and labeling of chemicals. This change was again meant to make the application of safety codes and standards easier for all parties. 5003.11.2.1, fire protection and storage arrangements on page 434, new section. This new section defines the fire protection and storage arrangement requirements for the quantities of category 1B flammable gases permitted by the new table 5003.11.2. 5003.13, 5003.13.1 through 5003.13.5, outdoor rooftop storage, use and handling on pages 434 and 435. This is a new section. Storage, use and handling and use of hazardous materials on tops of roofs or canopies shall be classified as rooftop storage or use and shall comply with new sections 5003.13.1 through 5003.13.5. These new sections provide the requirements for hazardous materials on rooftops or canopies. This clears up the requirements for these locations, whereas the requirements could have been previously found in different sections and or chapters that may not have been applied as the codes intended. Chapter 51 is aerosols. There was no significant changes there. Chapter 52 is reserved for future use. Chapter 53 is compressed gas. 5306.2, interior supply location on page 455. New language was added. Rooms containing medical gases shall be labeled in accordance with NFPA 99. 5306.5.1, medical gas cylinders on page 455. This is a new section. Operation and management of medical gas cylinders shall be in accordance with NFPA 99. This is a further clarification to continue to follow NFPA 99. 5307.3.2, gas detection system on page 456, added language complying with section 916. This added language clarifies the type of gas detection system that is required by referring to section 916. Chapter 54, corrosive materials, there was no changes. Chapter 55, cryogenic fluids, there was no changes. Chapter 56, explosives and fireworks, there was no changes. Chapter 57 is flammable and combustible liquids. 5704.2.9.6.1, locations where above-ground tanks are prohibited. Page 495 is amended to read as follows. Storage of Class 1 and 2 liquids in above-ground tanks outside of buildings is prohibited within the limits established by law as set forth in the Fire Code adoption ordinance or other regulation adopted by the jurisdiction. Above-ground tanks with a capacity exceeding 660 gallons in individual capacity or 1,320 gallons in aggregate capacity outside of buildings shall be installed only in areas zoned industrial or limited industrial and shall be located at least 300 feet from all non-industrial zone districts. Exception. Above-ground tanks containing Class 2 liquid directly connected to a fuel-burning appliance shall not exceed 1,320 gallons in all non-industrial zone districts. Above-ground tanks used for dispensing outside of buildings in all non-industrial zone districts shall not exceed 660 gallons in individual capacity or 1,320 gallons in aggregate capacity, and shall be listed and labeled as protected above-ground tanks in accordance with UL 2085. This is a long-standing regulation that was in the Land Development Code to restrict above-ground tanks and dispensing to limited industrial areas. The amendment allows smaller tanks for dispensing in non-industrial areas. All tanks used for dispensing in non-industrial areas are required to be UL 2085 rated. 5704.2.13.1.4, tanks abandoned in place, page 498. Amended by adding the following subsection 7. 7, site assessment is required to determine if there are any spills, leaks, or discharge from the tank system. Records of site assessment shall be kept on site of tank location. 5705.3.7.5.1, ventilation on page 516. This exception is amended to read as follows. Exception 1, where natural ventilation can be shown to be effective for the materials used, dispensed, or mixed. 2, when approved by the chief, continuous ventilation may be provided by one complete air change per hour. If supplemented with mechanical ventilation designed to provide for a complete air change 6 times per hour. The continuous ventilation equipment and any lighting fixtures shall be operated by the same switch located outside of the door. 5705.5, alcohol-based hand rubs classified as Class 1 or 2 liquids, page 518. This is new information added. 5, dispensers shall not obstruct required means of egress or be placed within 3 feet of an open flame, heating device, or other ignition source. This is just clarifying language. 5706.2.4.4, locations where above-ground tanks are prohibited. Page 520, storage of Class 1 and 2 liquids in above-ground tanks outside of buildings is prohibited within the limits established by law as set forth in the Fire Code adoption ordinance or other regulation adopted by this jurisdiction. 5706.5.4, dispensing from tank vehicles and tank cars, page 525. This is new information added. Dispensing from tank cars into fuel tanks of motor vehicles shall be prohibited. Clarifying language that under no circumstances should motor vehicles be fueled by tank cars. If subsections are followed, tank vehicles may still be used to fuel motor vehicles. You got something, yeah?
Are you done with chapter 57?
No. Last section here in 5706.541. Marine craft and special equipment, page 525. New information added. The operation shall be in accordance with sections 2310.4.1 and 2310.4.2. Clarifying information requires operations in chapter 23 to be followed, which regulates fuel dispensing.
And then, board, if there's any questions, I'll allow you time to ask Brett them now, but I think we're running late, so if we can stop at 58 and pick up 58 in the remaining sections next time? Or would you like to keep going?
I think I have the time if you want to just finish it up now.
Yeah, we can finish.
You guys want to continue and finish it up?
Finish the IFC up?
Yep.
Okay.
Chapter 58, flammable gases and flammable cryogenic fluids. 5806.2 limitations, page 532, amended to read as follows. The storage of flammable cryogenic fluids in stationary containers outside of buildings is prohibited within the limits established by law and set forth in the fire code adoption ordinance or other regulation adopted by the jurisdiction. Stationary containers shall be installed only in areas zoned industrial or limited industrial and shall be located at least 300 feet from all non-industrial zoning districts. This clarifies language regarding flammable cryogenics, liquids, and places the same restrictions that currently exist for installation of above-ground tanks. 5809, on-demand hydrogen mobile fueling operations, page 535 through 536. This is an entirely new section. 5809.1, general, on-demand hydrogen mobile fueling operations that dispense gaseous hydrogen into fuel tanks of motor vehicles shall comply with section 5809.1 through 5809.6.5. 5809.1.1, approval required. Hydrogen mobile fueling operations shall not be conducted without first obtaining a permit and approval from the fire code official. Hydrogen mobile fueling operations shall occur only at approved locations. The fire code official is authorized to approve individual locations or geographic areas where mobile fueling is allowed. 5809.2, hydrogen mobile fueling vehicle or trailer. An on-demand hydrogen mobile fueling vehicle or mobile fueling trailer shall be that which is utilized in an on-demand fueling operations for the dispensing of gaseous hydrogen into fuel tanks of motor vehicles. 5809.2.1, hydrogen mobile fueling vehicle requirements. Each hydrogen mobile fueling vehicle or mobile fueling trailer shall comply with all local, state, and federal requirements as well as the following. 1. The hydrogen mobile fueling vehicle or mobile fueling trailer and its equipment shall be in compliance with the appropriate requirements out of NFPA 2. 2. Hydrogen mobile fueling vehicles or mobile fueling trailers shall only contain and dispense gaseous hydrogen. 3. Hydrogen mobile fueling vehicle or mobile fueling trailer and its equipment shall be maintained in good repair. 4. Fueling a hydrogen motor vehicle from tanks or containers mounted on mobile fueling trailer or from tanks or containers mounted on a mobile fueling vehicle. A mobile fueling operations shall not combine a mobile fueling vehicle with a mobile fueling trailer. 5. Mobile fueling vehicles and trailers shall provide at least one 10-pound ABC dry chemical portable fire extinguisher with an agent discharge rate of 1 pound per second or greater. 5809.3, required documents. Documents developed to comply with sections 5809.3.1 through 5809.3.3 shall be updated as necessary by the owner of the mobile fueling operation and shall be maintained in compliance with section 110.3. 5809.3.1, safety and emergency response plan. Hydrogen mobile fueling operators shall have an approved written safety and emergency response plan that establishes policies and procedures for fire safety, release, control, personnel training, and compliance with other applicable requirements of this code. 5809.3.2, training records. Hydrogen mobile fueling vehicles or mobile fueling trailers shall be operated only by designated personnel who are trained on proper fueling procedures and the safety and emergency response plan. Training records of operators shall be maintained. 5809.3.3, site plan. Where required by the fire code official, a site plan shall be developed for each location at which hydrogen mobile fueling occurs. The site plan shall be sufficient detail to indicate the following: all buildings and structures, lot lines or property lines, solar voltaic parking lot canopies, appurtenances on site and their use or function, all uses adjacent to the lot lines of the site, hydrogen fueling locations, and scale of the site plan. 5809.4, hydrogen mobile fueling areas. Hydrogen mobile fueling areas shall not occur in public streets, in public ways, or inside buildings. Fueling on the roof level of a parking structure or other buildings is prohibited unless access to the roof level is available without entering the structure or building. 5809.4.1, the point of connection, 5809.4.1, separation. The point of connection of the vehicle being fueled shall not take place within the distances specified by NFPA 2 Table 7.2.2.3.2, based on the maximum rated capacity of the hydrogen mobile fueling vehicle. 5809.4.2, sources of ignition. Smoking, open flames, and other open sources of ignition shall be prohibited within 25 feet of fuel dispensing activities. Signs prohibiting smoking or open flames within 25 feet of the vehicle or the point of fueling shall be prominently posted on the hydrogen mobile fueling vehicle. The fuel cell of vehicles being fueled shall be shut off during fueling. 5809.5 Equipment. Hydrogen mobile fueling equipment shall comply with sections 5809.5.1 and 5809.5.2. 5809.5.1 Dispensing hoses, nozzles, and equipment. Dispensing hoses, nozzles, and equipment shall comply with NFPA 2. 5809.5.2 Fire extinguisher. An approved portable fire extinguisher complying with section 906 with a minimum rating of 4A ADBC shall be provided on a hydrogen mobile fueling vehicle with signage clearly indicating its location. 5809.6 Operations. Hydrogen mobile fueling vehicles or mobile fueling trailers shall be operated in accordance with this section and NFPA 2. 5809.6.1 Attendant. Hydrogen mobile fueling vehicles or mobile fueling trailers shall be attended at all times during fueling operations with brakes set and warning lights in operation. 5809.6.2 Emergency access roads. Hydrogen mobile fueling vehicles shall not obstruct emergency vehicle access roads. 5809.6.3 Dispensing hose. Where equipped, hydrogen mobile fueling vehicles or mobile fueling trailers shall be positioned in a manner to preclude traffic from driving over the dispensing hose. The dispensing hose shall be properly placed on an approved reel or an approved compartment prior to the moving of the mobile fueling vehicle. 5809.6.4 Safety cones. Safety cones or other visual barriers shall be employed as warning devices to highlight the vehicle fueling area. 5809.6.5 Vehicle lights. The hydrogen mobile fueling vehicle or mobile fueling trailer flasher lights shall be in operation while dispensing operations are in progress. 5809.6.6 Nighttime deliveries. Nighttime deliveries shall be made only in areas deemed adequately lighted by the fire code official. 5809.6.7 Spill reporting. Releases shall be reported where required by section 5003.3.1. The new section added to regulate on-demand hydrogen mobile fuel operations should they arrive in our jurisdiction in the future. Chapter 59 is flammable solids, and there was no changes. And Chapter 60 is highly toxic and toxic materials, and there was no changes there. Any questions?
I believe so. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Matt Kramer, Deputy Fire Marshal. I will have chapters 61 through 80. Liquefied petroleum gases, section 6103.2.1.6 on page 547. It reads as portable LP gas containers are allowed to be used to supply approved self-contained torch assemblies or similar appliances. Such containers shall not exceed water capacity of 2.5 pounds, amended to 12 pounds. Section 6104.2, which is on page 548, is amended to read as follows. Maximum capacity within established limits. For the protection of heavily populated or congested areas, storage of liquefied petroleum gas shall not exceed an aggregate capacity in any one installation of 2,000 gallons within the limits established by the law and set forth by the fire code, adoption ordinance, or other regulation adopted by the jurisdiction. Read as unprotected tanks with a water capacity exceeding 2,000 gallons shall be installed only in areas zoned industrial or limited industrial and shall be located at least 300 feet from all non-industrial zoning districts. This clarifies language regarding LP storage and places the same restrictions that currently exist for installation of above-ground tanks. Table 6109.12 on page 551. It's a change in the wording with no significant changes. Chapter 62, no changes. Chapter 63, no changes. Chapter 64, no changes. Chapter 65, no changes. 66, no changes. Chapter 67, no changes. Chapter 68 through 79 are reserved. And Chapter 80 is the reference standards. There has been numerous updates to the standards edition in the year of publication, but no significant changes with the actual reference standards. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Ryan Young again. I will be the last presenter for the IFC. Just the appendices. This shouldn't take but just a few minutes. So starting with Appendix A, the Board of Appeals, page 584. This Appendix A is not adopted and there is no recommendation to adopt. Appendix B, fire flow requirements, page 586. Appendix B is adopted and enacted in its entirety. One change on Section B 104.1 on 586 general. Exceptions were added stating, number one, the fire flow calculation area of buildings constructed of types 1A and 1B construction shall be the area of the three largest successive floors. And point two, the fire flow calculation area for open parking garages of types 1A and 1B construction shall be determined by the area of the largest floor. The type 1A and 1B construction was initially located in its own section but deleted and moved into the exceptions. Appendix C, fire hydrant locations and distribution on page 589. Appendix C is adopted and enacted in its entirety. Appendix D, fire apparatus access roads on page 591. Appendix D is adopted and enacted in its entirety with one change to Section D 103.1 on 591. It is hereby deleted in its entirety. And just explanation is the access road width of 20 feet is adequate to accommodate access and fire hydrants. I believe it said 26 feet in the unedited version there. Appendix E, hazard categories on page 594. This is for intentional purposes only and not intended for adoption. Appendix F, hazard rankings, page 612. This is not adopted and there is no recommendation to adopt. Appendix G, cryogenic fluids, weight and volume equivalents, page 614. This is also for informational purposes only and not intended for adoption. Appendix H, hazardous materials management plan and hazardous materials inventory statement instructions, page 616. Appendix H is not adopted and there is no recommendation to adopt. Appendix I, fire protection systems, non-compliant conditions on page 623. Appendix I is not adopted by the city and there is no recommendation to adopt. Appendix J, building information sign, 626. This is also not adopted by the city of Fargo and no recommendation. Appendix K, construction requirements for existing ambulatory care facilities, page 629. Appendix K is also not adopted by the city with no recommendation to adopt. Appendix L, requirements for firefighter air replenishment systems, 633. Appendix L is not adopted by the city and there is no recommendation to adopt. Appendix M, high-rise buildings, retroactive automatic sprinkler requirements, page 633. Appendix M is not adopted by the city with no recommendation to adopt. Appendix N, indoor trade shows and exhibitions, page 637. Appendix N is not adopted by the city with no recommendation. And lastly, Appendix O, valet trash and recycling collection and group R2 occupancies, page 640. Appendix O is also not adopted by the city of Fargo with no recommendation to adopt. Any questions?
I don't believe so. Thank
Very
you.
good, thank you very much.
If I may, I did look up in the IRC, the question you had about the 5/8 JIP, and there's no change in the IRC as well as there's no change in the IBC for that provision. So it is unique to the fire code at this point, from what we see.
Okay. We're on to new business.
No new business.
Okay, any announcements?
Yeah, there's one announcement. We're gonna be looking at section 1809.5 of the IBC. We have had some discussion within the department and we'd like to discuss a change to that section at the next meeting if possible. Other than that, I think that everything else should stand as it is. We'll have IRC chapters 1 through 3, actually 1 through 24 at the next meeting, and then the IPMC at the January 2nd meeting.
Okay. Sounds good. With that, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
I'll second it.
All in favor signify by saying aye,
Aye.
Aye.
and we are adjourned.
Thank you.